Welcome back to another episode of Beekeeping Buddies. I'm Steven.
And I'm Luke.
Oh, we're here to talk about all the things around the yard. It's been hot but manageable.
Yeah, it's way easier to manage it when you have people working for you. Being out there.
I don't have that, but
No.
we had some. It eased up in the weather, which meant I was back out in the bee yard after not touching the hives for probably the better part of a month.
Okay.
It's just really rough.
Were they out of control?
No, I had taken an early. If you might recall, we talked about in the previous episodes. I usually took honey on July 4th weekend. This is not July 4th weekend. This is after. And July 4th weekend, we had a lot of unexpected goat happenings.
Yeah.
That threw off our July 4th weekend and put me off on taking honey. We had ended up taking an early June spring honey.
Yeah.
And so the pressure to pull honey wasn't as high. So I let her ride, and then it got super hot the second part of July.
Spring honey is my favorite of the honeys, though, by the way. That is... It doesn't have a huge, strong flavor to it. I know you like the ones with more robust flavor, but I like that delicate, real... Now, not on my... I like it by itself. Like, that's the honey that I like by itself.
So
honey...
So we had this discussion just recently with some people that were at the house for the extracting. More on that later. And they had never... A couple of the people that were there had never just ate honey. I served as a honey tasting... an impromptu honey tasting. I lightly toasted some just standard Wonder Bread.
Yep.
White bread, Wonder Bread. It wasn't Wonder Bread brand name, but it was just basic white bread sandwich bread. Light toast. And we, suggested we cut it into four little squares.
Yeah.
And it gives you nice little sample on the thing, and the toast is pretty... neutral, right? But it serves as sort of a good delivery mechanism with the starch there, and
it doesn't overwhelm you with the
sweetness of the honey. But
you lose some flavor, though. I think you lose some flavor, just a little bit.
Yeah, but the reality is you're just not eating spoonfuls of honey either, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of a neutral balance in terms of the way you're going to consume honey. But the reality was, it was the first time that I think both of the people that were there had straight up. Well, one of them actually said, "Well, I've never eaten honey like this." It sort of caught me off guard that there aren't people that just made biscuits on a Sunday morning.
And mouth-watering.
Biscuits.
Biscuits and honey on
put honey on biscuits, and that's what it would eat along with your breakfast. And that's I had that as a kid growing up, and that's how I consume probably the better part of maybe 10 pounds of honey a year is just as raw honey on top of toast or biscuits or...
On top of toast is actually on top of English muffins. I've said this before.
English muffins?
English muffins is my all-time favorite because it fills in all nooks and crannies. It's so good.
Yep. And so, that interesting to just
sit down and try something. Yeah, it's always interesting to sit down and try something, even with other beekeepers, right? It doesn't have to be honey tasting, but it can be like cut comb or pollen or...
I had some cut comb. We didn't bust it out to try it. They had a lot of questions about, I should actually eat this? And we gave...
It's always the question. I can eat this?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Do I like a nice light honey? They're not bad, but when I have it on a toast, a nice, if I want some sourdough or some meaty breads, having a honey that's got a little bit more spice to it is my preferred way to finish that on my bread.
If it's on bread, I agree. Summer is the way to go. But if it's by itself or like in a tea, I really like the light spring.
So I got around this weekend, this past week. My weekends were filling up, and we realized that if we were going to get this done, just with weather temperature wise being it's right, then I just dedicated a couple hours in an afternoon and I pulled honey, and I had a box of honey that weighed 60 pounds, a medium box that weighed 60 pounds.
Those are rough to move.
I'm pretty, I've got we haul 50-pound sacks of feed around the farm for the goats and the chickens quite a bit. So I've got a pretty good calibration of 50 pounds just from hauling those around.
Yeah.
And throwing it up over your shoulders, one thing. Carrying it out in front of you, with the arms out is
it's another.
It's way out in front of your center of gravity.
And the finger grip strength.
The finger grip strength is a real thing
because the notches cut into the side of the box are just not very much. I have handles, plastic handles are there, but I have never put those on.
So I hoisted one, and I'm like, man, this is way heavy. This is just super, super heavy. And so we got to it, and I hoisted it into the house, and it was on the back porch, and we finally got around to it. I ended up pulling 6 boxes of honey off of the club location where I've got some personal hives there as well as clubs. I ended up pulling 3 boxes of mine, 3 boxes of club. These are 10 frame mediums. And one of the club hives was 10 frames, and it weighed 60 pounds. We extracted it, put it back on the scale. It was 19 pounds.
Yeah.
So it was right at 40 pounds that I pulled off of the box.
Which is usually what we've always guesstimated, right? It's about 30 pounds is what I usually like to guesstimate from a medium.
My safe estimate is 30.
Yeah.
If you've got a good heavy super, 35.
Yeah.
You can be a little bit more accurate with 35. Rarely are you seeing a full 40.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's mediums. So, don't ever take the deeps off. Though you think, oh, that's just, a couple inches. But it's a couple inches per frame. And, man, those things are heavy. Just so heavy.
So one of the students, she had set hives this year. She got a couple of our nukes. They built really quick. They didn't really want to draw the plastic frames and the super that she had. They eventually got around to drawing it. They only filled it about half full before the flow sort of petered out.
Yeah.
However, they packed the top deep like almost twice. We moved some frames over.
Tons of people I've heard that from this year in Illinois. Is that they filled up my deep.
Yeah.
I emptied my deep. They filled up my deep again.
Yeah. And this is like with a honey super on top too.
Right.
Right.
They ignored the honey super and they just filled up my deep.
And no queen excluder. Like this is not a case where we put a queen excluder on and like, nope, we're not going up there. I don't want to climb through the thing. Yeah. Nope, this is not. These are just wide open, naked. And so we had pulled 4 frames and moved them to our other hive early and put new frames in there. They drew those and still there was probably 6 to 7 of her deep frames on top.
Yeah.
And so I pulled 4. I made the call that 4 was good enough. There was still quite a bit of honey there, and I'm like, there's still time left for fall. So we pulled just 4 frames, and then I weighed that to get a better understanding, and I weighed 2 of the frames to get an average. One was 6.9 pounds, 6 pounds 9 ounces. The other one was 6 pounds 2 ounces.
Okay.
And when I was done, the frames weighed like 1.2, 1.3 ounces. So it was right at 5 pounds of honey per frame. So out of her 4 frames, we pulled 20 pounds, roughly 20 pounds. There's cappings in there too, right? But the net was about 20 pounds of honey out of that. And we weighed the tub afterwards, and she had 30 pounds. But you got to understand, of that 30 pounds, almost 20 of it came from just those 4 frames.
So that's interesting because so I did, and Steve and I hadn't talked about this. So one of my sites that I manage, I did the same thing on, exact same thing. They still haven't touched the super. Now I went through and I have extra wax, and I've been waxing all of the frames. The variation in time from wax frames to the double wax frames that are standard from, not standard, that you ask for, the double wax or triple wax frames, and that compared that to like frames that you add wax to, the ones that you add wax to, I have found they pull those out significantly faster, draw all the wax on those, maybe 2 or 3 times faster than everything else.
She used natural wax foundation. I used a lot of natural wax foundation this year.
Oh, right. Okay.
And they seem to take to that much quicker.
Or spaces, empty spaces. So, yeah, that's... That's an interesting find. And I found it too. I found a couple of my hives. They're full to the point of almost being honey bound, and we still aren't going to go up in the super and fill that up for you.
And having not touched those hives in probably a month, the propolis was just off the hook, dude. Like, I was prying. Like, I was out there on Saturday. We had the hive opening. There were some extra helpers there, and I don't typically have a helper in the yard, and they saw me struggling, and they're like, "You want a hand there?" And I'm like, "Here, grab your hive tool. I'm going to pry," and then you could see the frames underneath being lifted up with the top one. So they were going in there and poking and prying off the frames from below, so we could pull the box up.
Yeah, I have had that this year as well. A lot of it's propolis. Some of it's drawing. Like, we're just going to draw. We're just going to.
And that was, I think, I hadn't given them a ton of space. They were at July 4th. They weren't full yet.
Yeah.
Which is why I was willing to let them stay on. And then I didn't give them more space because they weren't full. But then we continued to have a pretty steady flow up into the start of July. And because of that, I think they did a lot of, like, when I separated it, you could see the layers between the combs, the bars that they had backfilled. And that just sticks everything together.
Well, it's every they at that point, right? We like to draw every single open space that we possibly can, which is interesting also because some of the queen castles that you and I made, I didn't put those notches. I never did get around to putting the notches in for the little tiny gap.
Yep.
And one of them used that as a crawl space to the next bay.
Oh, and then put honey over there
and filled it full of comb.
Because you didn't have frames over there.
Because I didn't. I had a frame over there, and they filled the one frame, and then they just drew 2 more frames with comb, and then went to the next bay, and they were starting to draw comb again in the next bay over.
Yeah, like, Luke, we needed extra space.
Yeah, exactly.
You should have given us extra space.
Yeah, and they were really not pleased. And it was about 100. It was early. It was middle of the week last week, and it was noon, and it was like 100 degrees.
Yeah,
and the guys that were helping me were not happy. Right, we're supposed to have our team meeting, our year-end retrospective on what are we going to do different in Riverview Road Apiary. And I take them out to lunch, and we sit around and talk about, hey, what do we do good, what do we do bad, and then I give them reviews on open reviews on how they did.
That's a real thing for the first year to do that when they don't have any previous experience.
Yes. Yeah, and it's interesting. I got some eye-opening. I took a lot of notes, a lot of stuff that there's a lot of requests for.
Okay.
And we didn't talk about this either pre-show.
I was going to say no, but that sounds like a great topic coming up. We might scrunchitize that into our in the news segment.
Sure.
I think I have some more.
Well, we got a couple of things more around the yard, right?
Around the yard. Well,
I'm ending my treatments.
Yeah, I want to go circle back to the honey thing.
Okay. Right.
Because I pulled the 6 boxes. I still had some stuff at home to pull. Like I said, I pulled June, but I still left some supers on. So I pulled from home. I pulled another 4 boxes. It was about 35 frames. I run a lot of 9 frames at home. It was probably another. I haven't drained the cappings tank, but probably another 70 pounds. So I think all in from the club site, between mine and the club together, I think was like 210 pounds.
Yeah. And
then I think I'm going to have another probably 70 pounds of summer honey, in addition to the 150 something pound. Like, so this year, all told, that I've run through my extractor is north of what was that up to? Like 400 pounds almost?
400 pounds.
North of 400 pounds.
And for those of you who are thinking or have never seen that 400 pounds, that's like
8. I have 8 5-gallon buckets sitting in my kitchen right now.
There you go.
And they're labeled, and logistically, we just got to the point where like we're going to the store to buy buckets. I don't typically just straight up buy buckets, but we're like, I don't have any place to put this. Yeah. I don't want to try to like scrounge up any more other containers, so we just...
And if you're looking as a beekeeper to buy buckets and you have a Menards, because I know Menards is kind of a Midwest thing, Menards sells food safe buckets that are labeled food safe bucket. And then I personally buy the little snap-on
lids.
And so there's a snap-on lid with a spin-on top to it. I like the spin-on tops.
I don't. I've got one of those, but I just bought the inexpensive snap-on lids, and they're sturdy enough to stack. I stack one bucket on top. I don't know that the 145, so a 5-gallon bucket of honey, somewhere between 45 and 48 pounds, depending on how. You can get 50 pounds in there.
You can get 55 pounds in there, and it's unpleasant to move.
But it's like at 52 pounds, you've got about 2 inches left to the top.
Yes.
And that's about all I want to fill it up.
So
then
the spin-on ones are nice because they're more robust than the snap-on. However, they're like $5 more, and it's not worth the $5.
No, and I don't trust the handles. So
absolutely.
I'm always lifting by the ribs on the side of the bucket, which is a real fingertip exercise.
You can kind of you can lift by the ribs and then put it on a table and then hug it.
Yeah.
And the hug is much easier, at least for me, to move when you hug those. But going back to like the extraction, how do you knock your bees out of your supers?
I have moved to a fume board.
Okay.
I've used a fume board for probably the past 8 or more years. And by fume board, I have a series of used full sheet trays that you would find in a kitchen or commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
So these are like 24 inches wide and 22 inches, 23 inches wide and like 30 inches long or something.
Yeah.
It's a full sheet tray.
Sure.
And the nice thing about a full sheet tray is you can set an entire bee box on top of the tray, and it does not extend. It completely sits inside the tray. I also use them for makeshift lids out in the bee yard if I'm missing an exterior cover, because it'll completely cover a super or box.
Yeah.
So I use Bee Gone, I think.
Yeah. Bee Gone. It smells like the amaretto smelling one.
Yeah. Well, it could be Be Quick, either one, right? There's a couple of different.
Be Quick. So one of them smells like amaretto, and one of them smells like you drank too much alcohol the night before and vomited into a bucket, and then put some stuff on
this
it.
Is the one I have right currently is the amaretto one.
Okay.
So I spray that onto the tray. I flip it over, and because the tray, it's always sunny and hot because it's July and August.
Yeah.
Then that evaporates off super quick. And that really does a good job of driving the girls down into the super. I'll pull that off, put it back onto the next one. I don't. This year I went with 2, and I worked 2 hives at once. So I'd set up the first one, put it on. I'd go to the second one, start working the second one, put the fume board on it.
By the time you're ready,
by the time I spent the 2 or 3 minutes doing that, the first one was ready.
Yeah.
I'd pull the first one. And then if I had a second super, I'd put it back on. And the process of pulling the super and all that garbage meant that a couple minutes passed for the second one. And so I with the 2, I was a little bit more time efficient with being able to consistently stay busy instead of just having like a 2 or 3 minute downtime where I'm sitting there waiting for the fume board to do its thing.
That makes sense.
I stacked them up, put them in my truck. I got them, pulled the truck up to the house, and then this year I acquired, they have these like they're marketed as rechargeable blower fans for, that are supposed to simulate, air in a can.
Oh, okay.
So if you've ever used air in a can for dusting off your computer, they now on the market, there's a whole different bunch of different brands of it. But it's intended for you to replace air in a can. So it gives you a very strong, directed stream of air.
Yeah.
You pull the trigger on this. It's a little handheld device.
Yeah.
And it's got a little teeny tiny, like they run at like 30,000 RPM. And it's like a little teeny tiny mini leaf blower.
Okay.
Works great. I couldn't find my proper leaf blower. If you know where it is, let me know.
I have a nice leaf blower.
Yeah.
but I don't think it's one I bought from an auction.
So the little hand deal works super great because it's super concentrated. I flipped on the tailgate.
Yeah.
I flipped them up on end. Use that to blast air. So any few stragglers
that are
left, I could blow out, and then that left me with like ones and twosies in the box, and then I carried it into the house onto the back porch.
So what I find is that because I don't use a queen excluder, and if they are in the super and there is brood there, they will not leave it.
They will,
even if you fume it and the heck out of it.
I agree.
And there's a few times, a few years ago, when I had helpers that they couldn't recognize a queen, and so the queen had been up there and she wouldn't leave, and so I was wheelbarrowing because I wasn't using the truck. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I was wheelbarrowing a super over, and a queen comes running out, and so I have to go back and guess what super was this on.
That does remind me of an incident that just happened. I was pulling honey off of my personal hive out at Wildlife Prairie, this apiary location. I did have a queen excluder, two mediums above two deeps.
Yeah.
Queen excluder in between. I pull off the top, full of honey, put my fume board on, fume it. I go to pull it off. There's some stragglers. As I pull it off and flip it up and look at it, there's a bunch of open cells. I look down on the bottom. There's brood.
Yeah.
It is capped. It is full of brood.
Yeah.
And I'm like, she's on the wrong side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I went and I pulled the second box off. I pulled the queen excluder out, put the second box back on, because the top box was basically empty. It all pushed down to the bottom.
Sure.
Or the first super.
Yep.
Without the queen excluder, I put the fume board back on. I went to work a different hive, and I wanted to push everybody out of that first super down into the deep.
Yep.
And then once because I basically just didn't want as little population around all the frames as possible, because what I was going to do was I'm going to play the mix and match game where I pull all of this honey out of the two boxes, put it all in one box, and then put all of the brood back on without the queen excluder.
You're condensing down a hive, basically. Yeah.
And then while I had the second, so then I did all that, pulled the second, put the fume board back on, worked a third hive, came back, pulled the second super back off, and then pulled honey because, of course, now they have taken the opportunity to put all of the honey down below.
Sure.
So then I pulled like 4 or 5 frames of deep honey out of the boxes down below.
Sure.
And then put it all. And so I pulled those out and brought those home too.
Yeah.
So really the honey was still there. It was just not where I wanted it. Yeah. So like it still works. It's just more work for me.
Yeah. So
it is possible for an experienced beekeeper that's been doing this since 2008 to get the queen above the queen excluder, and you wind up with all of your brood in your honey supers. So everybody out there that's listening, it does still happen. You're not immune to having that happen, even if you've been doing it for a bunch of years.
Because I lost and that year during that process, I lost a couple of queens. I require at least until my help is able to determine what's going on in a hive. I use a turkey feathers, and I brush off each frame. It also saves your back a little bit. So those of you with back end like injuries, you go over to your truck, you pull your truck up with an empty super on it. You brush off and you have to be. You can't be gentle. This is not a gentle prospect. You are convincing them to leave their honey stores for the
flick.
Year. Yeah, so it's a wrist flick.
It's a flick. When Michelle took honey off of her hives, she wanted to pull again. We were going to pull some honey out of the deep.
Yeah,
and to have her be part of that, I'm like, well, you got a bee brush? She was like, yeah. And I'm like, pull your deeps out and bee brush them.
Yeah. So
she's like, oh, okay.
Bee brushes tend to make them mad, is what I found.
To me, I haven't seen a significant difference between if your technique is good.
Yes.
I don't believe she knew that, and she talked about, hey, this is sort of supposed to be a brisk flick with the bee brush as opposed to trying to sweep the side of the frame, right?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, that's the good motion. So it's sort of a quick flick, and you kind of work the flicks down the side of your frame.
Yeah. So I use turkey feathers also because you can throw them away at the end, and you don't feel bad because there's lots of turkeys being hunted.
Because invariably your bee brush will be full of sticky honey.
You have to clean it, and if you're doing this to 30 or 40 or 50 things, then you grab a couple of turkey feathers and you can get them all.
It's when you use a fume board.
Yeah, you can use a fume board too. But to save backs and stuff, so you just move the frames over. It's just way easy. It's especially for 2 and 3 hives. Like this is, I would 100% have an extra super, move the stuff over to the super, and then when your super is empty, that's your new extra super for your next super that you're going to move over. And saves your back, saves some. Now, is it longer? Yeah. Is it more work intensive? Yeah. But you don't have the. If it's an overcast day, I found the fume boards not great. Like you want to extract.
It will take more time.
Day.
Yeah. If you look at the commercial fume boards, they seem to have some sort of T-shirt like material stapled to.
It's what I use. I use a T-shirt, an old T-shirt that I've wrapped around a piece of plywood, and I have to sit it out in the sun for 5 to 10 minutes.
I did that the first year, and I didn't feel like it off-gassed well, and I had the full sheet trays there.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, those get super hot. I bet this would just super off-gas.
Yeah.
And I tried it one year, and it was like they were gone. They're gone in like a minute, minute and a half.
And then the commercial guys use the stuff that doesn't smell great. And that stuff works really well. That stuff off gases in like 5 feet away.
Yeah.
The issue is that I had bad experience with Jaeger or whatever that stuff smells like in college, and I just can't. I can't be near it.
I don't. And some people will talk about residual odor that it may impart onto your honey. I don't typically keep my fume boards on.
Yeah, I keep
on
them
my
on
supers
for less than 2 minutes.
Yeah, so it's not like it's just sitting on top of a stack for like 20 minutes after I pulled the boxes, and it's just sitting in the yard or something. So I don't feel like my exposure is long enough to taint my honey.
Yeah.
And so you're like, hey, that sounds like a lot of honey. I think the count. I was talking about, because again, the people that were working with me were kind of surprised at how much honey I had. And I said, well, I had a good number of overwintered hives. Our nukes that we got from our supplier were super strong.
Yep.
They built really quick, and all told, I think those honey supers came off of what it was probably about 8 hives.
Sure.
And I was running. I think I've got like 14 I'm caring for right now. It was probably more like 10 hives. 10 of the 14 hives I actually had honey supers on, which, that's a full-time, for me, that's a full-time hobby. I don't want to work anymore. I've tried to work up into the 20s, and it just feels like a chore for me. And I'm rapidly, like this year, I'm back to that, I can tell when I'm not wanting to get out to the bees for like 4 weeks because it's super hot and I've got this impending doom of all these hives I have to get to. I'm just not, it's no longer fun for me, and this is supposed to be a hobby for me. So that's when I know that my sweet spot is I don't want fewer than 4. 6 is nice. 8's okay. 10, you're starting to push it for me.
Yeah. And not working, right? Just doing bees. I could probably handle 100 if I cancel all other stuff I'm involved in. Right, I can do 100 by myself.
Well, because we did some side math, right?
It's much more comfortable to have.
If you're working 5 days a week, if this is your job and you want to work 5 days a week, that means you got to touch 20 hives a day.
Yeah,
and the amount of time per hive, travel between out yards,
right?
taking notes, doing actual beekeeping, not just pulling frames and looking at them, right? But if you have to do any kind of balancing or adding, or if you're pulling frames,
that's really what slows you down. Is any time that there's a problem and you have to make an adjustment. That's what takes time.
You're going back. Hey, a mental note. This one's got a lot of brood. Okay, now I can go back and I can open this one up and pull and balance and do all those kinds of things. Like you'll burn up some time there. It's not just pulling frames and looking at them and making sure, oh, nope, everybody's there, and move on to the next one, right? When you actually have to do stuff is when you burn up a bunch of time.
And I am noticing, I'm getting older, and it's hot, and I don't do
this year was just brutal, dude. I grew up in Memphis, and I remember some brutal, humid summers. I haven't remembered this humid and this brutal of a humidity in decades. It's just been bad.
I don't know. I just thought it was me getting old.
Nope.
And, there's some afternoons that are pretty rough.
It's been hard on livestock. Like I've had some goat issues. So it's I run on fans and trying to keep up there too. So that's sort of some of my guideline there too. Is if it's not just me getting older, right? Like when the livestock's having problems staying cool because it's so hot and humid.
Sure.
That's when I know it's just not me. This also means that we're coming into starting to do some fall prep. Fall prep for me is making sure I did leave enough honey behind. We had discussions when I was pulling honey. Why we had inspections, and I'm like, well, that whole box is honey, and they're like, why? I thought you just took honey. I'm like, I did. They're like, well, why is that whole box of honey there? And I'm like, that's fall. That's fall honey that's 40 to 50 pounds of their honey for them to have for winter. And I'm putting this empty box back on. I'm putting that underneath the honey, and that's their space that they can build up for fall brood to have. So I'm starting to do some fall prep. I'm starting to see, I've still got some 5-frame nukes in the yard, and I'm starting to try to understand how I'm going to, I haven't tried to work a bunch of those into overwintered nukes. I know you've done a bunch of Palmer nukes 4x4s.
Yeah.
We had just dumped some bee cutout bees onto a little teeny tiny swarm that showed up in some equipment. I was thinking about it, and I was wondering if maybe because you were like, hey, you got a medium you can throw on there or something that we can use as a funnel. It was just happened to be sitting next to some 5-frame medium boxes that were laying around for odd reasons. And I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, I could probably stack a couple of those on top of that 5-frame nuke, and I did have and then I've got
needs to be drawn
medium. Yeah, I've got all the drawn frames though from my honey supers that I just extracted.
Sure.
So I could throw those in there, and I could probably come up with some more honey from other boxes still laying around.
I would just throw a Boardman feeder on it.
And
you have a Boardman feeder?
Yeah, I got a top feeder for one of those boxes too, I think.
I hate top feeders.
And but the problem with the Boardman is there's no notch. The notch in the front isn't big enough. My those 5-frame nukes aren't. This is not a styrofoam. It's just a 5-frame nuke. It's usually either a 1-inch hole or just like a 3/4 inch notch in the front.
Okay.
So you can't really put.
I was thinking that you had a full gap in the front. The Boardman feeders, they just fit through the front.
Yeah.
And you throw a jar on.
It's not like our 6-frame styrofoams that are just an open.
And
to
think
notch.
about it, you probably would have issues with raccoons in that area. Removing your Boardman feeder.
Yeah, and so then I thought, well, I've still got 2 5-frame nukes at home also that we raised queens in.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I move those out there, then I could stack. I could physically put those 2 5-frame nukes together, and then put that flexible insulated jacket.
Yeah, the Bee Cozy.
The Bee Cozy. I could put the Bee Cozy. I bet I could stretch that Bee Cozy around 2 5-frame nukes that were stacked next to each other.
You could, or you can wrap it around the top of a single 5-frame nuke.
Yeah,
which is I've done that.
And that would allow me the close proximity is the Palmer nuke thing where they're going to share the heat from A to B next to eeach other, and then if I put because it's only 1/2-inch plywood.
Yeah.
And so, but if I put the Bee Cozy on it, that would give them extra insulation. And if I'm going to do this, that's probably what I'm going to do. And I'm thinking, I'm tossing around the idea of doing that for a couple of these 5-frame nukes that I still got laying around.
Yeah.
If I don't end up robbing a queen out, because invariably we always have somebody calling up in September going, "Oh my God, I don't have a queen."
Yeah. Always.
And that's why I've kind of this year decided that I was going to hang around with some 5-frame nuke queen kind of things, because push comes to shove, I can always rob a queen out of that and then combine it with a weak hive and take my losses in the fall.
Well, at that point, you're not even robbing the queen. You're just newspaper combining it in.
Yeah. Or assuming somebody doesn't call up and need one.
Which we need to remind ourselves, because we had an interesting conversation there was an interesting club meeting with Corey Stevens.
Yeah.
And he talks about specifically that.
Yeah.
On what's the value of a queen versus a nuke.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that a little bit later.
You're finishing up your oxalic acid treatments.
Yep.
Vaporized version, not your pads.
Five. This is round 5. I actually have pads too, so after I finish vaporizing this, I will likely go back in and add pads to the hive that don't have pads. I've had really good luck with pads this year.
My Formic Pro count is looking pretty good. I don't know. Probably have to go through. I rounded it all up. I've got 3 different bags of it because I got some from the lady I bought out. And so I'm pretty sure I'll have enough to cover all the hives. I gotta be watching my temperature range to put that on. I'm kind of real touchy about my temperature range for that in terms of how aggressive it'll off gas when you first put it on, and if your temperature at the high end of the range, it's real rough on the hive.
It's really rough on queens. I have heard about just cut a piece of the metal that package comes in.
You mean the aluminum foil packaging?
Yeah. And then set that on top to slow the off gassing. I haven't done that personally.
I might try that because it's easy to do, and I typically end up.
And you use 2 pads over 10 days, right?
I have always done the 2 pads over 10 days thing, and that's mostly because I watching the weather, a 10-day weather window is within a forecast range that is agreeable, as opposed to trying to get a single pad for 10 days and then a second single pad for another 10 days.
Right.
Which is the other approved treatment option for that product.
Which, interesting, when I talked to them at the Honeybee Expo, they said that the 2 pads for 10 days was the only one that penetrated cappings.
Yes.
The other, the extended release, the 2 of them, gets the phoretic mites, or the ones attached.
Yes.
Does not penetrate cappings.
Yes.
Which I think is not clear in their instructions, and I thought that was really interesting.
But as I've always stuck with the 2 pads, I've always relied on the packaging indicating that it would cover under capping mites, and relying on that to have a pretty high effectivity in the mite kill off.
Okay. Are you doing a mite count before and after, or are you just going to treat? Because the correct thing we always tell people is do mite count before, and then do mite count after, and determine.
Determine.
But realistically, life gets in the way for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And they just
Will I sample all my hives? The answer there is absolutely no.
Yeah.
Will I, based on how hives look, do I have enough experience? Have I seen enough sickly hives to go, this hive looks like it's problematic, and sample that one and see what a mite count is, and then maybe pick one that doesn't have a problem and see what a sample looks like?
The cutout today, I would have said, is problematic that we did today.
We can roll this into this segment. We got a call for a downed oak tree.
Yep, I looked it up.
That have a hive.
It's a southern oak.
Okay.
Big old southern oak.
It was probably about 28 inches in diameter in the main part of the trunk. And it hit the ground and exploded. And usually when that happens, it collapses most of the comb inside, and there's not a lot to salvage. Today's cutout was not a lot different. From the outside, it looked pretty good, but as we got into it, it was in fact did crush a majority of the internal frames together, closing off the gaps that allow the bees to work the comb, and because of that, the small hive beetles were in the process of actively taking over the colony, the hive that was still there. There were quite a few bees, so we salvaged the bees, and then you took what little honey we did remove.
I'm just going to feed it back.
Yeah, just going to let them rob it out, and then the comb you can melt down for wax, and
which isn't very for those thinking, oh yeah, this is really good. You get a lot of wax out of that.
Nope,
I will get less than a fist size.
I would say you probably won't get a pound out of that.
No, yeah, it's a lot of work for not a lot of wax.
I mean, it depends on if I threw out my solar wax melter, there's not a lot of extra work I would have to do for that.
My solar wax melter got nudged by a lawnmower, and
your solar wax melter needs some
repair.
help. You need your solar wax melter. So out of that log cutout, yeah, what small amount of brood that was there was a bit spotty, but we added it to a little 5-frame nuke that was basically just one frame. So if it helps them survive, great. And if they don't, there's basically no loss there for either the stuff that we cut out. It was also an interesting, right? Because you showed up, you're like, what do you want to do with this? I'm like, I'll spend 30 minutes to cut out some bees. And they're like, you think this is going to take 30 minutes? I'm like, bud, how well does it pays nothing job do you want to do?
Yeah. So that's what always makes me grumpy in this area. There's a limited. So her statements. This is the statements we get regularly. I'm just going to pay. There's somebody up the road. They're going to do this for free, and they're just going to set the thing on fire, and they'll take care of the bees, and they're going to cut everything up. It wasn't until much later in this conversation today that she goes, "Oh, well, my brother-in-law's a beekeeper, and I asked him to come down and do it, and he said no."
Yeah.
After we'd set up, after everything was going, and he said, no, I'm not going to do that. It's too late in the season. It is too late in the season unless you have a hive that you're going to combine, like do exactly what we did, do a hive combine. She also lives in a very nice part of town that has some of the highest taxes and school systems, and it was not a shabby house, although she was mowing the lawn on a riding lawnmower, which was taking her forever because it was a massive lawn.
To be fair, this is a neighborhood that was probably between 60s and 80s, 1960s and 1980s when it was built.
Yeah.
So the houses back then, they're not new McMansions, but they're on sizable lots, right? So these are probably 1 acre lots or something in this subdivision on a very windy, like intentionally windy
back road,
1-lane road with no stripe.
Yeah.
Through the subdivision, like just
So the I'm not going to pay you for this, and after I said, well, we were wrapping up, and I was like, okay, well, there's leftover bees there. If you give them a couple days, they'll probably leave. They'll disperse. Otherwise, he can burn whatever's left. And she's like, who are you talking about? I'm like, well, the guy that you can have cut up the tree. She's like, oh, yeah, right. And I'm like, oh, so you didn't have a guy.
You don't have anybody.
Yeah, you don't have anybody. And I'm sure that you called somebody and they said, there's a hive in there. I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's, did we get taken for that? Yeah, whatever. I was hoping for the good karma for helping a little old lady.
There was a comment about after you were trucking the third load down the hill, carrying boxes of equipment, I'm like, bud, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not hauling all this garbage back up the hill. I'm like, drive your truck down here. Well, I don't want to be on the grass. I'm like,
no. She specifically said, I don't want you. Now, this is not a well manicured lawn, but she specifically said, I do not want you driving on my grass.
I'm like, I don't care. I'm like, my exact answer to you was, what is she going to do? Fire me? Threaten not to pay me? I'm not getting paid anything. But how do you think a giant oak tree is going to get out of your yard? You think it's just going to like transport her out of here? You're going to have equipment. You're going to have heavy equipment to move this. You're going to have grinders, guys with chainsaws. I'm like, your lawn is not going to come out of this unscathed. And it's been hot and dry. I'm not leaving any ruts. I'm like, no, this is not how this is going to work. Now, you going to pay me $500 to do this? I'll walk some stuff down the hill for you. but for free? No, bud. No. I'm backing down the hill. I'm busting out the chainsaw. I'm going to spend 20 minutes gathering up what I can gather, and then I'm packing up and I'm leaving.
I still think we spent an hour there.
I think we spent 30 minutes. We had the bulk of it gone in 30 minutes, and then we decided to cut a little. We decided to make an explorative, additional explorative carving on the trunk that netted us basically nothing.
Yeah.
And if we had spent the 20 minutes doing that, and instead had spent it packing up and leaving, we could have cut that time. But listen. I brought the pop-up tent. We weren't working in the middle of the sun.
Yeah, that was actually a good call. So, like, Steve brought a pop-up tent that we could work under.
Because I anticipated what I got. We did not get any photos, but
we got one photo of a close-up of the tree that showed that it had a hive in it.
We need to get like a 50-foot shot.
Yeah.
And this is like a full tree.
You'd be surprised at how difficult it is to be like, please stand back 50 feet and take a shot and then move up right next to it.
Yeah.
You'd be shocked.
So I anticipate. So what I was told was there was a tree down. Was it a text message on Saturday or was it a phone call?
Text message.
Text message on Saturday. You want to do a bee cutout on a tree that fell down, and I'm like, I'm busy today, and you're like, okay, we'll do it tomorrow, and then rain happened, and then equipment malfunction happened.
Yeah, my BVAC got died.
BVAC is not BVACing, and so there was a further delay of game until today on Tuesday, and so I was like, we're going to be in the middle of. I'm like, I know roughly what part of town it's going to be in. It's going to be in just wide open sun. The tree's on the ground now. What used to be shade is not going to be shade anymore. Yep. And I'm like, I just don't want to be standing in the middle of a yard running a chainsaw with a bee suit on, because that's the other fun thing, right? You're like, hey, who's going to do this exactly? How many beekeepers do you know are comfortable running a good size like this?
Not only are they comfortable, because you don't get that much out of it, right? Like,
no,
it's not. We got probably 4 pounds of bees, 3 to 4 pounds.
But
of bees.
Again, even if you do cutouts, like say you're a handy person, and you know construction well enough that you want to tackle cutouts, you want to tackle cutting in through drywall and dealing with cutouts. A lot of people that are handy DIYers still will not go touch a chainsaw.
No.
And your little limb saw, your little thing you got for cutting up some down limbs that fall in your yard, ain't going to cut. This isn't going to be a significant enough saw in order to be able to open up a 30-inch trunk, oak tree trunk sitting on the ground.
What did you have, like a 3-foot bar, 2.5-foot bar?
This was the large 40-volt Ryobi saw that I just recently acquired to have another 40-volt battery. And I think it's got a 24-inch bar. Yeah, so it's a big bar. Boy.
You pulled it. You said, "Oh, I got a new saw that we can use." And I'm like, "Okay, we'll see." Yeah. And you came out with it, and I'm like, "Oh, we were talking legitimate. We're going to cut some trees. Yeah. Now, you have trees on your property.
Yeah.
To cut stuff like this down, or that you could use this for. But it's a legitimate. It was a legitimate.
So yeah,
saw.
it's a battery powered saw, but it's the 40 volt. It's the 24-inch bar, and you put that size battery pack on a DC motor these days, a brushless DC motor these days, and they'll pull some power. It pulls just as hard as my old steel 039.
You were. It was enough that I thought we were going to spend a huge amount of time because it's an oak, right? And I looked at it, I'm like, this is hardwood. It's going to be rough to get through. And that chainsaw went right through it, no problem.
Yeah, because again, torque of the modern brushless motors is a real thing. Yeah, and it changed sharp. So, and I brought a second battery just in case, but we only needed the one, and I didn't even check the bars on it. But yeah, like you got to be willing to handle cutting into a trunk of a tree.
And knowing that you're going to go in and get
collapsed.
Yeah, maybe you're going to get honey. Probably not.
Probably no, because
I didn't even bring frames because you asked, you're like, hey, did you bring frames to
wire
brood? And I'm like, no. And in my head, I didn't answer it, but I'm like, there's not going to be brood in this. This is going to be squished and.
Well, we were looking at it, and the orientation of it was us laying at about a 45-degree angle. If it was completely flat, if it was horizontal to the world.
Yeah,
I'd have been like, oh, it's all squished. But looking at the orientation that the outside combs were, I was like, oh, there's a chance. Because if it lands, so they're still vertical, but now they're in a horizontal, I don't know how to.
Anyway, the way it landed, they're like pancake onto each other, and you don't get anything out of it.
It squishes everybody in there, and then it starts to rot, and it's just you can't. It's called garbage.
Yeah, removing the bees is your best option, and you get
vac the bees and
3-4 pounds of bees.
You'll have some honey and some.
This time we had no honey. There was no.
I mean, I think maybe 5 or 10 pounds that will be robbed out.
Oh, they'll be rubbed. Like as far as for.
Oh no!
There's nothing you're going to be able to eat.
No, nothing for us.
No, and then the bees, maybe 5 pounds. I would even say 5 pounds. They'll go through and pick.
Yeah. I guess for in the news, we got a quick segment here. Somebody sitting across from me recently finished and got his fancy certification.
Master, I'm officially a certified master beekeeper from the University of Montana.
And you're gonna get a little certificate in the mail?
I will get a badge. I get a
badge?
Yeah, I know.
Wait, you're gonna be officer beekeeper?
Yeah, I got to put it on something. But yeah, I get a sticker that I can put in the window, and I think I get a little badge that you can sew on to something. Maybe I'll sew it on my bee suit. Although I was looking at my bee suit today, Steve.
I may have brought the sledgehammer. I brought the pop-up tent. I brought the chainsaw bar and oil.
Forgot the suit.
I forgot the suit. I brought the smoker.
Yeah, I brought a smoker.
Smoker and fuel and propane.
Yeah.
Forgot the suit.
Forgot the suit. So he was wearing my suit, and I was like, ooh, my suit. Looking a little rough this year. This is year 2 or 3 for that suit, so I may have to get a new suit. But maybe I'll sew it on to a sleeve or something so that it can be swapped through.
Velcro patch, bud.
Velcro patch. There you go.
Velcro patch, and then you put a piece of Velcro on the suit.
Yeah, way easier. There you go. So, but I have to get it first, so I haven't gotten the badge, but I did get the grade. I did get a solid A for the course. And
have you heard back on whether or not they're going to publish? So as your third portion of the Master Beekeeper class, you're required to do some sort of paper of some sort. There's a couple of different ways you can do a paper, but needless to say, long story short on that is they're submitting your paper to the various publications to see if they want to publish it.
We're doing some work on it, and first we got some positive feedback that said, hey, this is a good paper and deserves more attention. And so we have to rewrite some of it as far as clarity, and that's in the process right now. So we'll keep you notified. We may get rejected, right? They may say no, right?
Yeah.
It's entirely possible. The information that we got is, I agree, is good information. It is one of those things that's like, well, we'll talk about it another time. But basically, it's good information for disproving claims that people make.
Sure.
Right? So that'll be
But
good,
I mean,
good
lots of science, right? Like you set out with a question, and there's plenty. There are almost a numerous number of. We hope that thing A will lead to thing B, and thing A did not lead to thing B, but that information is in fact a valid answer of A, did it not in fact lead to B.
Sure.
So
Sure. Yeah, just because it didn't prove what we thought it would prove doesn't mean it was a useless test.
Yeah.
So we're working on it. If we do, there's 2 places that we're trying to submit it to of 2 different levels, and once we figure that out of where it's going to go, then we can talk about that more.
Honeybee Hotline is where we take questions from listeners, from the Discord, from students, or in this case, it might be a question that one of us has. And while standing on a ladder, standing on a scaffolding, running a BVAC on a cutout on an apartment complex, watching all the flyers come and go, or as it were, returning, because there didn't seem to be much leaving, it dawned on me that of all of the facts and figures and little tidbits of information that I have squirreled away from my years of beekeeping, ready for virtually any question that anybody could ask me, if somebody asked me, what's the average time a forager is out to do a foraging flight, I could not give them an answer. I don't know if that's a 2-hour flight or if that's a 10-minute flight. And so the background of that question is, as I'm standing there vacuuming foragers, it occurs to me that if I've been actively doing a cutout for over an hour, and I've vacuumed everybody that could have left a half hour ago, will they stop returning because nobody left? Or will there be people returning for the next 2 hours? Mm-hmm. Because at some point you vacuumed everybody who could leave, and therefore if nobody leaves, nobody returns.
In my head, for some reason, there's the image of the dude, where's my car?
Yeah.
He left, right? And I came back and my hive's gone. Dude, where's my hive?
Yeah. So it occurred to me, I'm like, is how much time needs to pass there? Is it only 10 minutes since I vacuumed the last flyer before she comes back, and then she's just crawling around the hive and I vacuum her up, and then or is it going to be...
Because there's quite a bit of, hey, I vacuumed one, you can see him with the palm on their legs.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to vac her up.
Yeah.
She's got resources.
And then as you get later in the year and we continue to do cutouts, you get more and more robbing, and then sort of like you could sit there and vac bees all day because all the robbers from all, and talking to Dirt Rooster, he's like, oh yeah, I've definitely done that in the past where I'm like, I need some more population. I'll just set up the vac and just let it sit there and go down in the truck and cool off and just let it vac up random flyers just to boost the population.
Sure.
But obviously you don't want to spend all day there, and it can be sometimes difficult to explain to the people that are still living in the structure that all of the activity around the entrance there, where there used to be a hive, is activity that will just disperse. And sometimes when it's ones and twosies, that's really easy to explain. And when it's a cloud of bees, it's really hard to explain. And so I went looking for an answer. And the Googling of this answer is not a great Google. I consider myself to have pretty good Google foo.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to tell you how far they'll forage.
Yeah.
I tried adjusting, minus range, minus distance, various things to I'm not interested in that part of the question. I was hoping for a research paper that would talk about it. I've wound up with a bunch of research papers talking about all sorts of other parts of the foraging, like when they come back, how many bees do they hand off to? Is it one? Is it many? Does it make a difference? How long does it take for forage to make it up into the hive? We have a source that we track, and we can track the source. And so we put out sugar water, they go and bring that, and then we can track that source throughout the hive. It sounded like it was slightly radioactive, and we can, use a little machine to see that. And then within 20 minutes of the bee returning back, it's moved from cell or handed off and fed and all kinds of different things, right? So lots of different research there. Still did not come up with a real good answer. I found one decent response that suggested that flying for nectar was a very short flight, 10 minutes, and flying for pollen was a longer flight, like up to 30 minutes.
Which is funny because that's
opposite
of what the hive and the honeybee says.
Which is a book sitting in front of Luke.
Yeah, it's a giant Bible
of a textbook.
Yeah,
I mean, it looks like a textbook, right? It's just a gray. It's just a maroon leathered bound textbook looking book, and
printed by Dayton.
Information was almost exactly the opposite, but the point is, it's somewhere between most forage flights. If it's water, hunt nectar, or pollen, are probably going to be done within 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So if you're vacuuming up the last of your bees, so if you're pretty confident nobody's left in the last 30 minutes, and you're 30 minutes after the last one you vac, you probably got all the foragers from the hive that you're actually doing the cutout on, because obviously there was nobody to leave 30 minutes ago to come back.
Yeah.
So that was my own question that I have researched, and now everybody else knows.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good one, and especially for if you're doing cutouts or if you're ever interested in, how long should be gone for. Well, it's about how long.
And then there was some carry along in there, right? Like how many they make about 10 trips a day, apparently, or depending on what they're going for.
No, they're all like average 10. It says, nectar, pollen, and water. They said all about 10 trips a day. And the water is the one that was most quickly dispersed, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and something like 50,000 flights of nectar, was it?
Yes.
And about 10 individual doing 10 flights means there are about 5,000 foragers, which that math...
No, 500... Yeah.
5,000 foragers.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Yep. Yeah.
Making about 10 trips is about 50,000 flights a year, flights a day.
Right.
So that sort of tracks with the average population of a hive and how much activity you have.
Which makes sense because your larger hives then have more foragers and they're going to be able to produce more honey, which they've done studies on that. And we know that a larger hive can outproduce 2 medium hives.
I also ran across a research paper that was talking about the difference in forage between a small hive and a large hive. And they actually forage differently.
Oh,
because I didn't read all of it. I'm making an assumption here based on the initial
abstract
at the front. The small hives tended to forage more pollen, and my guess is the small hives are probably raising a larger percentage of brood than a large hive, because they're actively growing or actively trying to grow, and therefore pull in more pollen.
Or they can only grow so much because the queen's only laying so many eggs per day.
Yeah.
So then I have my set amount of pollen foragers, and as my hive grows and I have more foragers, I can just put more resources towards nectar.
Second question we come in from the outside world. If you're going to be feeding fall feed, which there'll be some hives I'm feeding fall feed to, how obviously spring feed is 1-to-1. And people generically know that fall feed is usually 2-to-1. But as we're late summer and early fall, if and when do you make the switch over?
Yeah. So I feed 1-to-1 so that all my hives are good until they're good weight this time of year, because they can still evaporate all that off. The 2-to-1, if it's an emergency and I put it in, and like we're getting into like early September, mid-September, and I'll start feeding that specific hive 2-to-1 because they'll put it away and they can evaporate it off still.
I think mine's answer is the same, although slightly refined. We always start the podcast off talking about weather, and really I think the answer to this question is really weather dependent. So I think I'm going to answer this question that might help people that aren't just in the Midwest, right? Because
that's a good way to approach
your time. Just saying months is going to be entirely different if you're in a mountainous portion or farther north, because you're going to get cooler much quicker.
And we've always claimed beekeeping's local. Right?
Yeah.
What works for us may not work for you.
But overall, as long as I've still got nice warm days, consistently warm days, and some of those warmer nights, I don't feel bad about feeding 1-to-1, because I still have the warmer temperatures to help dry off the nectar that needs to be dried down. As it starts to get cooler, I'm going to say probably 60s, lows in the 50s, lows in the 40s. That's when I'm going to make my switch to 2-to-1 if I still need to feed.
They almost stop taking, outside of the hive, they stop taking feed at that point.
Yeah.
Inside the hive, they'll still take feed.
But most of my feed will be
2-to-1.
2-to-1. Well, it'll be mostly fed on inside the hive, right? Either frame feeders or the club's got some top feeders.
Yeah. Or I'll even switch at that point to starting to get sugar blocks and stuff on.
Sure.
Sugar lids. All right, we got some questions from other folks.
You want to do some rapid file over there? You have
I got a lot of sketch, a lot of notes. Causation versus correlation for.
Oh man, that is not an easy. Anytime you start with that, that's not going to be a quick question.
Slimed hive. I got a slimed hive. It died. It's the next year. Is that hive that I replaced that with in that location going to have issues with hive beetles?
Can I say I don't know?
You can. Yeah. I've had a slimed hive. I will have a higher hive beetle count if that hive is slimed in that location.
Presumably, because of all the larvae that have to leave the hive and go to the ground in order to finish pupating into the adult small hive beetle and emerge from the ground. Theoretically, the ground, as I understand it, because the larvae crawl out of the hive and onto the ground, that is all within a 3-foot radius of the hive that they crawled out of. It's not like adult small hive beetles that can fly. So, will that small patch of dirt have a higher potential to produce more small hive beetles? It seems to be logically yes, but the major questions hanging over that statement for me are, what is your winter conditions?
Yeah.
If you're in an area that gets a hard freeze and a hard freeze,
like we have some years.
Some years, you get a 3 or 4 foot frost depth. You're sub-zero for your highs are sub-zero for a week.
Yeah.
I don't know that your small hive beetle are going to make it through that. If you're a part of the country where you don't have that kind of weather, and you have a sliming, you might be in for a rough next year because of the beetles. Now, the other question was, how quickly do larvae turn into beetles?
Right.
And I thought it was a seasonal thing, but I think there was some research that the last time that question was asked, somebody jumped on the phone, and the answer was more like a month.
Yeah, it's a short turnaround,
short life cycle.
So I really think it's the location. So if you have a shady area and it's shady, and you had hive beetles and your hive got slimed, and you didn't change much for the next year, and you didn't limit their space, and it's still shady, I think you have the chance of having hive beetles on that again there. Now the population in the area is going to be more, so maybe if you have some feral hives and stuff, that may make a difference. Maybe, I don't know, but
if you have an early slimed hive, if you have a slimed hive in like June, I think you'll see a beetle population that is higher in July and August. If the beetle population, if the time between larva and beetle is that short, then it stands to reason that you could see an increased beetle population much quicker.
Even back at that hive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But year to year, like if you had a year break in there, yeah, I'd say that's probably just the location that it's at.
Would you think it's more weathered, shade versus sun dependent versus slimage event?
Yes.
I agree with that.
My hives that are in the sunlight have a much better job if there are hive beetles around corralling them.
Yes.
And have lower hive beetle struggles.
My student who changed their hive location this year, their previous hive location was at what's the official term for right at the edge of a tree canopy?
Yeah, the transition. I'm not sure what that
where the water drips off the leaves.
Yeah,
that was right at it's not up against the trunk. It's right. So like they would get sun, but only a very direct, like, 11-1 or something like that over summer, right? Because otherwise it's kind of tucked up underneath a tree.
Yeah.
And where they are now is in full sun.
Right.
Like it's full sun almost all day.
And I think it wakes them up earlier too.
And
the bees wake up earlier.
They noted that they noted far fewer small hive beetles.
Yeah.
And my opinion was it had everything to do with the fact that it was a much more sunny location.
Yeah. Another one. So we've both introduced queens. Sam introducing a queen, and as I'm introducing her in her cage, they are biting the cage.
That's not a good sign.
And is that a sign that queen is never going to be accepted, or are we just like this is brand new? They've gone queenless. I put a new cage in, and they're biting at the cage.
Okay, if you tell me that you're put a queen in a cage onto the top bars of a hive, and you see the girls closest to it climb up to it and start biting the cage, and your statement that you proceed that with is, I put that on a queenless hive, I'm going to say, stop right there. Yeah. I will put all of my money on my wits and wagers spot on you do not have a queenless hive.
Right. Now, a couple of them biting, where it's not so bad. Okay. If you just squish the queen today,
yeah,
and I put it on,
yeah,
yes, you'll have that behavior at least for a couple days.
Or are you able to effectively discriminate between biting and tonguing through the screen to try to feed her?
Right.
And are you able to discriminate between those two behaviors?
Yeah.
Because one could be confused for the other.
Well, I will say that I have this year I put a deep on top of a strong hive with a queen excluder, and I put a queen in cages just to so that they would keep her warm, right?
Queen bank them.
I'm banking them. There are definitely hives that are like not one of the hives I was banking on. It wasn't a nice hive to start with, and you could see them try to bite through the cage, and I'm going to bite you, and if I could get through, I would kill you. Another one that I got asked, queen excluder, do you use it? Yes or no? We kind of touched on this before. Do you use it? Yes or no? And why?
I this year I had hives I put them on, and I had hives I left them off of. Did I have enough of queen excluders for as many hives as I wanted to put them on? Yes, I probably have 8 or 10 queen excluders in my possession. So it's not like I ran out and I chose, and the only reason I didn't put them on is because I ran out, because I know that's a reason for some people to use. I had hives that I felt were building quickly, and I wanted to put supers on, and I was confident that there was a queen below, and I wanted to keep them out, and so I put them on. There were others that were still building down below, and I wasn't confident that they were going to potentially need space in the queen in the super. So like if I put a medium over a deep, I didn't have double deeps, and I'm going to run a deep and 2 mediums. Mm-hmm. I may not queen exclude that first medium, even though I end up robbing honey frames out of it. So it's sort of a give and take, sort of a how big is the hive, how fast is it growing sort of feel. A lot of my equipment is holy, and I do run the edges are broke down from years old equipment because I've been doing this long enough to have that kind of equipment. And I typically have top entrances. So if I do run a queen excluder, I do run most of my honey supers have got a way to get into them from above the queen excluder.
Yeah. So that's key. If I have an entrance above the queen excluder that they can get in, yes. I 99% of my equipment, I don't run a queen excluder. I use it for the flow hive because you have to. I use it for something I'm going to do cut comb on.
Flow hive. I didn't use mine. Did you use yours this year?
Mine's still on. I need to go look at it. I believe I can actually pour stuff from it.
Oh man, we are deep into the podcast. We gotta circle back to that one next episode. Stay tuned, everybody. Tune in next week
for that one. And then, can you tell the difference between laying worker versus a virgin queen? And I was like, that one confused me.
Yes,
because your laying workers are laying, and it's not just one worker; it's multiple workers. By the time you get to that, and your virgin queen is not laying.
I'm going to say yes, but my answer, I think, is going to be difficult for an average beginner to differentiate. Also, let me first say, I think the answer there is if you're experienced, you might be able to tell.
Yeah.
If you're new, I don't think it'll be easy for you to recognize. I think most of my call, if I were to look at it, is going to hinge on how the eggs were placed in the cell.
Okay.
So both instances.
Well, so it shouldn't be virgin queen. We need to change that to a newly mated queen.
Yes.
She's just warming up.
Yes.
Virgin queen shouldn't be laying.
By definition.
But so newly mated can have a hard time getting
newly mated queens
eggs in the right spot.
Can have a difficulty in getting one egg per cell.
Yeah. So
I think the basis of this question is if I'm seeing multiple eggs per cell.
Yes.
How do I tell if it's a?
And I think that's what the actual question.
Question is how do I tell if this is a laying worker or if this is a newly mated queen who hasn't sorted it out yet? And I think the answer there is observe the position of the eggs that are being laid, and if at least one of the eggs that's laid in the cell is dead center at the bottom of the cell. Key here at the bottom of the cell, or one or two of your eggs are at the bottom of the cell. All of the eggs, multiple eggs, are found at the bottom of the cell. I am much more confident in calling that a newly mated queen and not a laying worker because the laying worker's butt just isn't long enough to reach the bottom of the cell. If they're on the side of the cell and you see 3 and 4 eggs on the side of the cell, I'm going to call that a laying worker every time.
Yeah. The other thing would be number of eggs. Most of the laying workers I've seen are like 30 eggs. It looks like somebody stitched eggs on the bottom.
I've never seen that many. I've seen maybe 6. But after 3 and 4, it looks like a ton.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of them, and that is always a laying worker. So laying workers, we should say.
And a new queen is typically 2, sometimes 3.
Usually 2.
2.
And it's weird. And you'll see it, and it'll clear up, and it'll be like 2 and then 1, and then 2. Right? It'll clear
up. Every time I've seen it, it's been spotty, where I can find cells that have a single egg in the center at the bottom of the cell, and then I find a patch of cells that seem to have 2 or 3 at the bottom.
Right.
And you're like, well, she's just feeling it out. She's just getting.
Yeah, and the easiest way to check it is you check it in a week, right? And
check it in a week, or if you can find a fat old queen running around.
Yeah, that's a real easy way to do it.
So I think that about wraps it up. We appreciate all the questions, people listening. If you want to leave us questions, you can get a hold of us on the Discord or send us an email. We have... what else do we want to tell them?
Oh. We just crested over 3,300 listens, so we appreciate for all you guys listening. Keep listening to us. We do have a Patreon if you guys are interested in supporting us on Patreon. If you don't and you just want to listen to us, that's fine too. We don't mind. We actually like doing this podcast.
If you do sign up for the Patreon, we probably will have some rewards. I think we're thinking about a yearly. If you maintain a yearly subscription, you'll get a honey bear for your year.
We could probably I'd be willing to kick one in. We can do one from River Road Apiary. We can maybe kick one in from Schmidt Farms.
Yep.
You can do a honey tasting of your own. For those that are interested, we do have a Discord server. On our Discord server, I will be posting a Ask Luke questions about how he's running his beekeeping business. I got a lot of questions from master beekeepers to do this. A request that said, please do this. So I will be sitting down and saying, these are the things that I do to make money. And hopefully, and if you want to come and ask me questions about stuff like that, I'm happy to go and answer them. I will post it on Facebook and may be able to talk to Steven to join that, but it'll be one night during the week for probably about an hour that we'll sit down and answer questions.
I mean, I can be there, but I don't have much to add about how you're running your business. I've done my own personal. I can talk about.
Maybe we'll do a separate one for hobby farms.
I mean, we could throw it in there because some of the economics, the decisions on how to do spending for equipment and things is like it's the same decision making, right?
Sure. This is a small business that I put together, and I will tell you the mistakes that I made.
But we're both well-educated engineers, though.
Yep.
So I think in that respect, we might be flying above the curve in terms of.
But yeah, I can tell you what to do as far as LLC. What forms do you need to do? What does your business plan need to look like? Where can you get information like that? Right, especially if you're in the Peoria area. I'm happy to answer all those questions.
Sir, we don't need more competition here.
Yeah, it's all right. There's lots of. I got a lot of honey. It still sell out in January. It'll be fine.
We just got to get you that fancy vehicle with the bee wrap.
Oh yeah, that was nice. Binks Bees. He's out in Chillicothe. He has a nice fancy vehicle. I need to meet him. I need to see. Really, I want to see his operation.
I'm shocked at the number of people because you think with the number of calls we get and the feedback we get every time we do calls, like, oh, I just couldn't get anybody to come out. I just. The only people that I asked around and your name was the one that came up all the time. And you're like, from my perspective, it seems like we're the only people in the area doing this. And then
I know we're not.
I clearly we're not. And yet how is it that these other people exist and this is such a small community and we somehow don't know about each other?
Well, yeah, for as social as we are, we sometimes don't get out to meet each other. We don't. That's why we're here. We are your buddies in the local area, and you need to go out and whoever you're listening, go grab your own buddy, and we can grow your beekeeping buddies. We can be all throughout the United States. So, yeah, with not just a name, you should way of life, as one of our listeners would say, right?
Hobby beekeeping is a way of life. Shout out to 628 out there. Thanks to everybody for listening, guys. Tune in next episode for all of your beekeeping needs. Thanks.